have I pulled off the DDF, the Defiant Defense Force look with this outfit? I googled Spensa and this is what came up, something similar to this. I don't think I have, but you guys will be the judge. So, as the intro alluded to, today we're going to be talking about Brandon Sanderson's Skyward series. We've got the first 2 books over there, but we're not going to be talking about those books. No, we're going to be talking about Sunreach, which I have right here. It is a novella recently written by not only Brandon Sanderson, who wrote all the other Skyward books, but also Janci Patterson. This is a continuation of Brandon Sanderson really working with other artists to get smaller projects out of the way as he works on his major stuff. Sunreach is a smaller novella taking place after Book 2 of Skyward, and for that reason, I really want you to pause this video if you have not read either of the Skyward books, and go and read those first. I will quickly say I did really enjoy Sunreach. It's a great continuation of the series, but I can't really talk about it at all, not even the premise, unless you have read the first 2 books. So if you haven't, goodbye, please subscribe, please like. I don't want to spoil anything for you, so Farvel. Are they gone? Okay, so now let's talk about it with the assumption that you have read the first 2 Skyward books, but maybe you haven't read Sunreach yet, and you want to know if Sunreach is worth it as a smaller novella. Now, I'm going to say straight off the bat, yes, it is. I mentioned earlier that it takes place directly after Starsight, which is the second Skyward book, and it really does, but not from Spencer's perspective. Spensa being the main character of Skyward, of course. In this case, Sunreach is part of a trilogy of novellas called the Skyward Flight series, with Sunreach being the first in that. And these smaller little novellas will focus on side characters, or main characters, but they're not Spensa, and really get to see their perspective throughout the series, predominantly in the between Book 2, Book 3 mark, but the third novella might take place during or after Book 3. We don't know yet because neither of Book 3 or the third novella are out. As of this recording, only the first novella is out, so that's all we can speak about. But essentially, the premise of Sunreach is that you have all these humans now not stuck on detritus anymore, but they are in these floating platforms, but they're still stuck on the planetary system, and they really need to get off it because the superiority is getting more and more wary of them. In this book, you follow FM, Freya Martin, one of the main characters of Skyward, as she tries to grapple with this reality while being tasked with trying to work out what these slugs do. Yes, you heard me right. This book is essentially about our side characters, namely Rig, Jorgen, and FM, trying to train slugs. Now, why is this? Well, as I assume you've read Starsight, well, you will know that the hyperdrives that everyone is trying to look for is related to the slugs. In particular, Spensa figures it out in relation to Doomslug, her little slug pet. And at the end of Starsight, Jorgen finds a whole lot of slugs. Now, this book starts with the characters knowing that the slugs are important because Jorgen, as a cytonic, is able to sense them, but they don't know what to do with them. They don't really know how they work. So these kids have been tasked with figuring out how to make these slugs work, for the lack of a better term, which I will get to in terms of the slugs' usage. It's a major theme of the book, as in the handling of an individual for the greater good. But essentially they're trying to get these slugs to work, and also at the same time communicate with another alien who needs their help. As I mentioned earlier, I really enjoyed Sunreach. You get a lot more perspective. This is not a book about Spensa. There is barely any Spensa in it, although she is mentioned quite a few times, but you really get to explore the minds and the motivations of a lot of the other characters from a more measured perspective than Spensa's very bombastic personality, and I enjoyed that immensely. There is a decent amount of world building, but as you would expect from a Skyward series, it's not on the scale of something like a Stormlight Archive. It's more world building in the sense of, oh, these are some cool mechanics, and here are some cool creatures and aliens, much like you've seen in Skyward so far. And keeping to that, the tone of this book is very much in the YA genre. There is a romance plot, there's cool dogfights, and there is the other more over-the-top, dramatic kind of elements that you've already seen in Skyward that make it more YA. So the themes of this book is there's very much a Carpe Diem theme to it, which is seize the day in Latin, and essentially that means to not put things off, to be prepared as you can be in the moment. There's a line in the book that comes up a lot, which is, I'm as prepared as I'll be in this moment, or something along those lines, which gets mentioned by FM quite a lot. And as she continues throughout the book, this mentality becomes more and more prevalent. And this relates to the other main theme, which is a very much a anti-utilitarian theme, which is the individual versus the many, or the needs of the individual versus the needs of the collective. And that is because the humans are in a very dire situation in this book. They're going to get wiped out, and so there is a big push to really make things work, even if individuals will suffer in the consequences. And whether that's slugs, or that's sacrificing teammates, that comes up time and time again. And FM, as we learn in this book, and was touched on in the Skyward series, is really against that. She's very much a humanitarian, or really, that extends beyond that, because there are also aliens. And she goes against that establishment, and she tries to think of what they're fighting for, and if they're not fighting for the individual, then what are they really fighting for? Which I greatly enjoyed. As a small novella, this book doesn't go super deep into it, but it does explore those themes decently well, and it does have a satisfying conclusion with those themes, which is good. It manages to touch on them better than some other larger novels. Now I'm going to talk about Janci Patterson's work in this, because I don't know how much Sanderson wrote and how much she wrote. I'm guessing she actually wrote a lot of it, and Sanderson more supervised the plot and then did a lot of the editing, because a lot of this story is a love story between FM and, I'm guessing you know who the other character is if you've read Skyward, so I'll just say it outright, it's Rig. And Sanderson is notoriously pretty bad at romances, although I did quite like Vin and Ellen's from Mistborn, so I'm guessing she handled that. Yes, it's cheesy, yes, it's corny, but it was really quite adorable, and by the end I was rooting for them as a couple, and the jokes around Jorgen and Spensa, and Jorgen not thinking anyone knows about his relationship with Spensa, was also quite sweet. On that note, Jorgen himself is great fun. He's very hard-lined into this is the way things should be. He's very much one for rules and one for conformity and putting faith in the chain of command. And that does come into play a little bit in this book, but seeing as the next book, I believe, is from Jorgen's perspective, I'm assuming we're going to get much more of that in the next novella. So those are my spoiler-free thoughts for Sunreach. I greatly enjoyed it. It expanded the universe. It made me think quite a bit. The characters are great. Even if they are very much in that YA camp, it's definitely the most young adulty that Sanderson gets with his main books. But I still greatly enjoyed it. And it was a well-told, well-paced, quick, vastly enjoyable read that really built on the Skyward series. And while I don't think it is absolutely essential for you to understand the Skyward series as a whole. Although I will see if that claim holds up with book 3. I do think that any Skyward fan would be really missing out if they did not read this little novella. It's short, it's sweet, it's fun, and it really builds on the characters and the world from a different angle. What is not to love? It's really great. If you like Skyward, you will like this, because the flaws of Skyward are also here. But if you like Skyward, then those don't bother you. So it's a win-win. With that being said, that will be it for this video. I will do one on the spoilers of Sunreach as well, but this video is getting a bit long now. It took longer than I expected to explain things, but don't worry, that will be out soon. I just want to give people a bit more time to read this novella before I just spoil it all for you. My name is Jasper. I hope you all have a terrific day. Make sure you like and subscribe to the channel if you enjoyed this video and you want to see more like this. Have a terrific day, and I will see you all later. Bye bye.